Hello and welcome, I'm Kwabena, and this is Future Africa program. Today we are going to discuss with my guest Western global powers interference into African internal affairs, particularly Ethiopia. And my guest today is Mr. Kwabena Hene from Boston, member of the communication team of African Continental Unity Party. Mr. Kwabena Hene, thank you very much for joining us and welcome to Future Africa program.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. Well, you guys are doing a great job.
And let me start with your description on the current political situation in Ethiopia.
You see, from my standpoint, those of us that are outside, we are hearing so many conflicting information, and we know the media is not doing a good job. So thank God for media houses like yours that is giving us inside information on the ground. But from what I know and what I've read so far, Ethiopia is no different, but it is the last frontier of the entire continent. The only country that wasn't colonized to date, you know. So it doesn't matter what they say or what they try to imply or put upon Ethiopians, it makes no difference. They still cannot overthrow them or make them become like the rest of us. So it is important that the youth of Ethiopia rise up and protest in the streets and fight to preserve what they've been gotten, what has been left for them in the past. You know, I was reading and I realized when the Italians were beaten out of the place to run out of town, the template is still there. Haile Selassie did a really good job. So I believe whatever is going on now is an infiltration from the Western media. Now, can you tell me that there's any manufacturing gun company in Ethiopia now as we speak? I don't think Ethiopia manufactures any gun. But here we are, there are guns in the street. It means somebody is sponsoring this thing. And that is why we need to pay attention. Colonization was a thing that didn't get you guys. But the neocolonialism thing that is going on is trying to catch Ethiopia off guard. So it's important we be on our guard and fight this thing with everything we've got, you know. So what I'm seeing now is no different from what happened in the rest of African continent. They are now trying to beat our last hope, which is Ethiopia, and that shouldn't happen, in my opinion.
Well, and many political analysts claim that Ethiopia has been put under current pressure following the Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed's effort to strengthen the integration agenda of the entire Horn region. Do you share this claim?
Oh, yes, of course, I do share. Now, your Prime Minister has all the great intentions, you know. Your Prime Minister has done a great job. Now, because again, those of us that are away from Ethiopia, we only see from him from afar. We don't know the details. But being that as it may, you could realize that the fact that recently he was given a Nobel Prize, he was given an award, a Nobel Prize, he won the Nobel Prize, and the details of the Nobel Prize was because of the integration that he brought together. So he's been trying to unite the whole place up, you know? So because he's doing that, at least he has the intention of fixing Ethiopia, Eritrea, and all the other North and East together. But here's the thing, I get nervous, very nervous, when I see the imperialists giving our people accolades, because it's not been 2 years. And look at what happened. Just immediately after giving him the prize, now they put in Ethiopia under such decimation. So I don't really buy into when the outsiders try to impress upon us what they think is good for us. They should just leave us the hell alone to run our own affairs. So I share your Prime Minister's agenda of doing it. All I want is to make sure they allow him to put the unity together and make sure the Eritreans and these people that are fighting now, the rebels, get together and form a union government. Because this division is just an extension of what happened at the Berlin conference, and we don't want that to take place. So it's important you guys stick together and preserve what you've got to date.
Why united Africa is always a threat to Western global powers?
The question is, why not? This is the only richest piece of real estate under the sun, my brother. Richest. Let's take away everything they've stolen out and leave them to keep that. They will still have to come back again. So that is important, that we understand that we still have everything it takes that should attract these people. So our unity is real threat to their life and their livelihood. They will make sure that we never unite. Look at them uniting and forcing to fight to stop Brexit from happening. United States of America is not gonna break away ever. So why should Africa not unite if we are the ones that have all these resources? So it's important that we keep our resources intact, unite or perish, is what Kwabena Nkrumah said. So it is incumbent that we preserve this unity. The fact that they are fighting is an indication that if we unite, they are going to be in great peril, So I am not surprised that they are not interested in our unity. And whatever they do, don't believe the hype. They don't want us to unite, and we're going to unite no matter what. That's what we do at ACUP, making sure we put ourselves together with one power global base. So with this, we'll be able to formulate agendas and theories that are Afrocentric, that will make things work for us on the continent at large.
And several arguments are also coming out that Ethiopia is becoming best example in resisting this Western global powers interference. And do you share this view?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Listen, I just told you earlier on, the only surviving country in the entire continent is Ethiopia. You are like our mother, the cradle of Africa. There was a time that we talk about Kemet. Now, you can talk about Kemet without talking about Kush. You can talk about Kush without talking about Sudan, Ethiopia. Ethiopia is the cradle of Africa too, So the fact that we're able to resist and fight them and help them run to their heels was a big deal. Now, we haven't lost that. What we lost is the degree that we wanted to be like them. And because of that, they're taking advantage over us. But once we get our identity intact and go back to the playbook that Haile Selassie and the emperor used to defeat the Italians, which I think is there, because I believe there's a big library there in Ethiopia. There are books that were left behind that we can use that same template. And then even modernize some that we need to modernize and take charge of our entire continent at large.
Some scholars and Pan-Africanists are also claiming Africa is nowadays suffering from neocolonialism. And do you believe that Africa is suffering from neocolonialism?
Oh, you can bet everything you've got. That is all we are struggling with now. Because when Nkrumah and the Nyereres and the Kaundas were fighting for this, there were a group of people, my brother, that were not interested. Now watch what has happened. It's been almost 60 to 70 years, right? Now they said to slow down and go slowly, and that we should take independence slowly at a pace where it wasn't even anything acceptable. But we still went ahead and did it. This is what we've got from it. It is nothing we can write home about. And the neocolonialism is now they are using our leaders, our own people, to loot us and take from us. And then they are doing the bidding of the imperialists. So neocolonialism is going to stay with us for a long time until we get our act together and become a unifying front. And that's why I keep hammering the fact that ACUP's agenda is basically to put us together under one umbrella, all of us. There's been so much talking from the 60s up until now. So not until we get on the ground and take power, we cannot do anything. Because if you're a movement, you're just talking. But neocolonialism, yes, it's really a thing that has affected the entire continent. And Ethiopians are now coming on board too. Do not let that happen. Make sure you stand your ground and fight these people out. You know, it is not a good thing at all. And we have to take that out of the entire continent. We don't want that anymore.
If it is so, what should the role of African countries be in fighting the neocolonialism?
Very simple. And what I see from our ACUP standpoint is that the breaking apart is what is affecting us. As one country, look at Ghana or Togo, for instance. There's no way any of the African states can fight even America or even go to negotiating table with them. We just can't. We don't have any leverage. So it is important that we make sure we get together, because if we get together, we are 55 countries. America is only 50. So just by sheer numbers, we beat them, you know. And then on top of it, we have all the resources. So if we make sure we organize ourselves and get together, that will be the end of their history. So it is important the youth of today begin to learn the entire history. And I'm going to quote Professor Smalls here. He says it is important to learn your history so that you can take away the mystery of the white man and then go about your black magic. That is what we need to do. Learn our history. Once we know the history, we know where we are coming from and where we are going.
Well, Mr. Kwabena, and do you think that regional and continental organizations such as AU, IGAD, and others playing their role as they expected?
I don't think so. It's very sad, you know. Their intended purpose originally was meant to stand in like the European Unions and the big leagues and then stand in for the entire continent. But guess what? Because the motive of those that let that happen, they stopped Nkrumah in his tracks in 1963. The last attempt we remember of trying to reverse the Berlin Conference was 1963. They stopped it. He settled down to the AUs and the ECOWASs. Now, those are toothless bulldogs, as we know. Can you believe that sometimes I'm even tempted to think the slave trade never even happened? And why do I say that? Because our brothers and sisters were stolen from us, taken across the continent, beaten, brutalized, mutilated, raped, did all that. And today, Americans are shooting them in the streets every day. And there's AU over there. I don't even hear any one president get up and say, what are you doing to our people? Bring them back home. They don't do that. So I think the AU has failed in their duties. So there has to be a new kind of leadership that has real African agenda at heart and are ready to sacrifice everything they've got to make this place a better place for all the youth that are growing up. So yes, the AU has failed. They are not doing anything for us. They are just sitting there. They are being funded by European Union. Can you believe this? So whoever gives you money controls you. So you're right. The AUs and the ECOWASs and all these integrated soft institutions are not doing nothing for us as a continent. That I'm assured of.
And if you can also say something about Western global media, you know, they are usually reporting negative and destruction about Africa. What can you say about this?
Oh yeah, even in your case, Ethiopia, do you know, I think a couple of days ago, I was speaking to one of my friends and CNN was telling us that the Tigray people are about what, 800 meters away from the city to break up and take over control over Addis Ababa. Not true. I spoke to one of your guys and they say, no, that's not what is happening. So it's all part of the propaganda machine. That is why media houses like yours cannot be taken for granted. We have to make sure you guys get up to leagues with them, and then you can send our own information, make our narrative what we want to send out there, not what they want us to send. So we need to reorient ourselves with media housing as well. It's very important because Western media, we can't depend on it. No, for nothing.
Why do you think the Western global powers could learn from their past mistakes? They know that their role is tremendous in dismantling countries such as Libya, Iraq, Somalia, and others. Why they couldn't learn from their past mistakes, Mr. Kwabena?
They will not learn from it. That's just their nature, my brother. That's just who they are. You know, you see how Africans are welcoming and accommodating. They are the opposite. And on top of it, somebody once said they have a frozen pineal gland. You know, now I'll leave that aside. But what they are doing is just self-preservation. And then they have added on top of it diabolical way of going about it. Because believe you me, they could have come for the resources of Africa and shared it equally among all of us, and everybody would have been happy. But far from it, they won't do that. So by their nature, they will not change. They're not even going to learn from it until we learn and catch ourselves and begin to reciprocate what they are doing in our own way. That's when they're going to learn it. But it will be too late for them at the time, because the speed at which things are going now, right from religion to cultural practices and everything else, they can't stop it. They no longer control the narrative. The youth of today are awakened. You know, social media is to our benefit. The guy called, what's his name? This African-American guy, he said, internet is a gift to the black man. And he couldn't be further from the truth, you know. So they can do all they want. At the end of the day, we want to control our own narrative now. And because we cannot depend on what they do for us. The problem is we knowing our identity. The main thing which is stopping Africa now is trying to be like them, you know. So we want to dress like them, we want to act like them. And once you do that, you never know yourself. So if we can identify with who we are and enjoy and believe in what we do, then it's going to be a time that they will still be coming for us and they won't get nothing from us, because we would not need them for anything. We have enough to run our own affairs. So yes, the Western media and all their cronies are there to decimate us. We, on the other hand, need to find our place and then run with it. If we do the same way they are doing it, I don't think we can win, because they are a very wicked breed of people. You know, Africans are not like that. We are the opposite. We did not even own guns until they got here. So you can imagine. But be that as it may, with what we have right now, if we can get our act together and take up the Afrocentric way of doing things, believe in our cultural practices, fix our languages, get one unifying language for ourselves, whatever we can go, it's going to be off the chart. The sky will be the limit, because we still run the resources, you know, we still own all of it. They haven't even scratched the surface, but they think they've gotten us. No. If we get our act together, we still own the diamonds, we own the gold, the platinum, everything is still on the continent, you know. So we still have the upper hand. We just have to get our act together. That's it.
And do you even believe that Africa Union is as strong as it should, because many African countries are, you know, looking out when they are facing a problem?
No, I don't. We've had enough of it. It's been 60 plus years. This is all they've got to offer. You know, a guy called Albert Einstein said, you're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. You call that insanity. There's no way we can still sit here and expect the AU to do anything for us. We need a new breed of leadership. Listen, the first group of people that studied with them was supposed to come back and relieve their people, that's the Africans, you know, and liberate them. But they came and they became the next group of what? Colonial masters. And these are our own people. So they look like us, but they are stealing from us. That's why when something happens in Americas to an African American, my friend is saying. So what I was saying was, we have to get our act together. And then once we get that done, we'll be able to get back en route to where we left off, because there has been an interruption, what they call the Ma'afa. In fact, the number of killings that took place between the trans-Saharan trade alone to the Americas is more than what happened at the Holocaust. But guess what? That's the Holocaust, and ours is not even in any books. So we are, first of all, going to have to get together and plan our own Afrocentric way of doing things, which is why ACUP's agenda, and I'm going to keep repeating this, is what we believe is going to help, because it is very selfless. We are very accommodating. We accept anybody that talks about Pan-Africanism. All we are saying is it has to be African way and nothing else. And we don't want to put anybody in the helms of affairs, so they take him out. It's just vision centered, and then training our leaders in business and in politics, so that with these two dynamics, we'll be able to run the cause that we want to run, not according to their way of doing things, you know.
Why Africa failed to counter Western global powers pressure, and what should be done in the future, Mr. Kwabena?
So first of all, we didn't fail. The degree to which, you see, sometimes we are tempted to think we have failed, but I want to just give you a note of caution here. We don't want to even go by that narrative. We haven't failed. What we have done is now we are wanting to be like them. So when you want to be like them, we can win. We cannot win. We have to stay in our own corner, be ourselves, have our self-identity, preserve our language, our culture, and our traditions. You know, once we do that, then we can go about our black magic, because there's nothing they've got that is going to help. Every development they have done to date is destroying the planet. Where is the winning game here? This is a winner-takes-all Medros system of running issues and affairs. When we used to run the show, we didn't kill any society like this. They did. So the degree to which they have won is only the part where our children and our wives and our families want to be like the Americans. Everybody wants to go to America. Everybody wants to go to the UK. That's how come you think you have failed. But the moment we begin to have our self-worth and begin to know who we are, identify ourselves as real royals of an entire continent that has once ruled, they haven't even come close. This dispensation too shall pass. Trust me, it'll pass. So we haven't failed at all. We just have to maneuver and get our course right, and we'll be okay.
Do you believe that it is time for Pan-Africanism revival?
More than you know it. That's all we got. It's Pan-Africanism or nothing. It's all or nothing proposal. We cannot go halfway, regional approach, nothing, none of that. It has to be Pan-Africanism, you know. That is the only way out, you know. That's what I just said. We cannot try to be like them. We have to stay our course. So Pan-Africanism has come in a time like this that is better, because now we have tried in the last 60 years what everybody else wanted. The Moravia group that made the 1963 Addis Ababa conference fail because they said we should slow down. We have slowed down, and this is what we got. So obviously it hasn't worked. So now we have to go all out, full throttle, and run a pure Pan-Africanism movement, and then change it to get our global power base, and then generate a new breed of leadership to run these affairs. That's how we make it happen.
I think to ensure the revival of the Pan-Africanism, a lot is expected from young generation and especially from leaders. And what do you say on this, Mr. Kwabena?
You're perfectly right, especially the young leaders. The old ones, they are done. We have two groups of people in Africa now. The ones that went to study abroad that were supposed to come and liberate us failed. There's the other ones, especially the Caribbeans and the African Americans who studied and lived with a white man. They were smart enough to help us bring about all this independence. But they too have done their talking and the movements all they can. They don't live on the continent with us. So now the youth is the new face of generation that we need to be careful to bring them up the right way. That is why I keep saying the media like yours today cannot be underestimated at all, because you are the only thing we've got to get our information out there, so our youth can pick it up and run with the torch. So the youth of today must be beaten to the drums. You know, when Martin Luther King and Jesse Jackson and all these people were running, they were in their 30s, late 20s, early 30s. Those are the generations that took over political power across Africa. Nkrumah was about 36. So you can imagine if these same people today are on Facebook just touching and clicking and enjoying and having fun, they are wasting their lives away. They need to wake up and fight the fight that their forefathers fought for them. You know, this generation is smarter. They're not going to put you in chains. It's more brain power now at this point. So it's important that youth is oriented correctly so that it can help in the fight for the Pan-African movement.
If you can also comment on African media outlets, especially in promoting the Pan-Africanism.
That's very important because I used to think that some of the media houses were trying to line up with a few group of people and leave the rest. I think if you're a media house like this, you should publicize all things Africa. Don't even try to filter nothing. Just say it as it is, because at the end of the day, it is designed to bring information to the people of Africa, you know. So I really like the way you do your thing. I hope and pray that you guys can stick around long enough and get bigger, more network, and then so people can hear you in lots of places. But the media houses is all we've got now to create our own narrative. No more BBC. Growing up, you only hear information from BBC and AOL. You know, now the CNNs are doing their thing. Nobody watches it anymore. So this new form of media broadcasting is what is going to save Africa.
Finally, if you can say something, you are welcome.
Oh, okay. So yeah, basically three things. I always use the key analogy. You know, we were sitting in our place minding our own business in Africa. And I say, if you have a key and you are sitting in a dark room and your keys fall down and you can't find the key, but you lift your head up and you see light ahead of you, and then you decide to leave the dark and go in the light to look for your keys. That's wrong because your key fell in the dark. If anything, you should bring light to the dark and find your key. That's what is happening in Africa. So we are looking at the Western world as if that's where brightness is. But our fixing is all within ourselves. We have to fix everything within ourselves here. Now, the way to do it, I'll say the ACUP agenda approach is what I recommend now, which is developing one global power base, and then doing that with the Free-Minded Academy that we also have as a piggyback next to, in tandem with the globalness, our global base fighting. So we're going to be training our leaders in business and in politics. And with that, we'll be able to run the course according to our own agenda. So no more waiting for the Western media to come and approve anything. We don't need anybody's permission to do this, you know? And then finally, what I want to leave with, basically, if you look at the way things are going, if we do not unite, all we're going to have to do is to get perished. That's what Nkrumah's last words was. Unite or perish. The next force of energy coming to us is in a what? Solar energy. And where is the most of solar? In Africa. So if anybody has to get their act together, it's nobody but us. Because if we don't get together, they will come to Africa, take our solar and sell it back to us. And that's why we need to be very critical and serious about making sure that the ACUP agenda is picked up by everybody. We need everybody on board at African Continental Unity Party, I'm telling you. And when you come to see our ideology, you're going to find out that this is all we've got to do now, nothing else. We're not interested in just talking. We're taking real action on the ground, boots on the ground to make this thing work in every country of Africa. We have the same ideology across board, very unified, such that if you go to Ethiopia, it should be the same. If you go to Nigeria, it's the same thing. And that is how we'll be able to run this, a vision-centered approach to save Mother Africa. Thank you very much.
I think if we stand together, we can save Africa. Otherwise, we will fail together.
That's all we've got.
Dear viewers of OBN Horn of Africa, this is Future Africa. And this brings us to the end of today's edition. My guest today is Kwabena Hene from Boston. And I'm sure you have got some constructive point from this discussion. Until next time, Goodbye.